Right now, there is a version of you that you have never met. You built a self to survive, to be liked, to be safe. But every year you wear that self, something underneath it grows quieter. You call it growing up, growing wiser, becoming responsible. But one man looked at this process and called it something else. He called it dying, slowly, while still breathing. Not the death of your body, the death of who you pretend to be, and the birth of something that was always there, waiting. If you've ever felt like a stranger in your own life, this is for you. Because the man who mapped this had a name for everything you're feeling. And it begins in the dark. There's a part of you that you've spent your whole life pushing down. The anger you weren't allowed to show. The desires you were taught to be ashamed of. The ambition that felt too selfish. The grief you were told to get over. Jung called this the shadow. Everything about you that you decided was unacceptable. And here's what no one tells you. It doesn't go away when you bury it. It just stops speaking your language and starts speaking through your behavior instead. The outburst that surprised even you. The relationship you sabotaged without meaning to. The person you can't stand, who somehow keeps showing up in your life wearing different faces. Jung's insight was simple, and it will not feel comfortable. What you don't face inside you, you will eventually meet outside you. In the people who frustrate you. In the patterns that repeat. In the life that feels stuck on a loop. This isn't your fault. No one teaches you this. You were never shown the map. But someone did draw that map. A long time ago. In secret. On the edge of his own sanity. He was a psychiatrist. A scientist. And for years the world thought he'd lost his mind. What he found in that darkness became one of the most important maps of the human mind ever drawn. His name was Carl Gustav Jung. A student of Freud. Then his rival. Then something neither of them expected. His own school of thought entirely. For years Jung descended into his own unconscious, deliberately. On purpose. Recording everything. He called it his confrontation with the unconscious. Colleagues called it a breakdown. But what came out of that period reshaped how we understand the human psyche. Jung believed that becoming whole required something most people spend their whole lives avoiding. Turning toward the parts of yourself you've spent your life turning away from. He wrote it plainly. And it's one of the most quoted lines in psychology for a reason. He said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Not by pretending to be better than you are. By understanding exactly what you are. All of it." Lesson 1. The mask you wear to survive is not the same as who you are. Jung called this the persona, the social mask you develop to be accepted. Think about it. The version of you at work. The version with your family. The version online. None of them are fake exactly. But none of them are the whole picture either. The danger isn't having a persona. The danger is forgetting it's a mask at all. When that happens, you start living for the reaction, the approval, the role, instead of for yourself. And slowly you lose track of what you actually want, versus what the mask demands. Here's something practical. Tonight, ask yourself one question before bed. Which parts of today did I perform and which parts did I actually live? You don't have to answer it perfectly. You just have to start noticing the difference. Drop this in the comments. I am not the mask I wear to be understood. Lesson 2. The things that irritate you most about other people are often things you refuse to see in yourself. Jung called this projection. We throw the parts of ourselves we can't accept onto the people around us. The coworker who's too ambitious. The friend who's too emotional. The stranger who's too arrogant. Sometimes that judgment is accurate. But notice how strong the reaction is. That intensity is information. The things that barely register don't trigger you. The things buried in your own shadow do. This doesn't mean every criticism of others is wrong. It means your reactions are worth examining. Next time someone gets under your skin, pause. Ask, is there a version of this in me that I haven't looked at? This is uncomfortable work. It's supposed to be. Growth that doesn't challenge you isn't growth. This knowledge is for protection, not destruction. Understanding your shadow isn't about becoming cruel. It's about becoming honest. Drop this in the comments. My reactions are a mirror, not just a measure. Lesson 3. Every time you shrink yourself to keep the peace, something inside you takes note. You stay quiet when you have something to say. You agree when you don't. You shrink your dreams to match the room. Jung would say this is the unlived life, the version of you that never gets to exist. And the unlived life doesn't just disappear. It becomes resentment, anxiety, a restlessness you can't name. It shows up as envy toward people living the life you didn't let yourself want.